Now with the spring back in place, we'll go ahead and put the reel back together. What you want to do, start with your springs. They set in here just like so. There's two holes mandated specifically for those springs. Once you see it, it's super obvious where they go. Next, we'll put the pinion and the yoke back in. Sets in there just like that, and it lays right on top of those springs. Just like so. And then next, main gear. The whole bridge assembly goes in. Holding on to your drag washers so they don't come off of the sleeve there on the bridge. So what you want to do is tip this up again, just like we did when we took it apart, up on its side with a little bit of an angle upwards, just enough to hold everything together. And I like to put it together on an offset angle like that. Reason is then it keeps everything together for you. So then you can swivel the base of the bridge back and forth. You can swivel around and work with it. Because next, what you have to do is right in here goes what allows your reel to go in and out of gear and locks it from spinning backwards on you when you stop reeling. So that's this part here. Hold on. That's this part here. Lay it in there. It sits on top of that screw. Slides right over top of it just like that. Then you have a very, very small spring, which is right there. If you can see it, it's very tiny. That guy sits in between the little edge right there and the side wall of the reel face. Sits right in there just like that. And then as this moves back and forth, up and down, it engages and disengages that spring, pushing it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth as it rides up and down on the main gear. So then what you want to do is just spin this around until you hear it all click. And you'll see the holes line up here. These 4 holes on both sides. You'll see those line up. Then while you're holding everything, flip this over, and the screw that you'd already put in there, just go ahead and tighten that down. That'll get everything. So now, even though you only got 1 screw in there, nothing's going anywhere. And you can check that everything works with the eccentric lever. You can see it wants to go back and forth. You can see your spring engaging here. The pinion gears going back and forth, up and down like it should to engage and disengage the spool. As you can see, watch you see it fall away. And then you put it back, and out it comes again. So you know everything's working. So next, you can go ahead and put the 4 screws that I had showed you that hold the inners in back in. Now one thing with these is there's looks like a red 4-aught or a 6-aught or many of the similar style Penn reels. These screws, 2 of them have threads all the way to the top, like this one here. And then the other 2 have threads just at the bottom. And the rest of it's all solid metal. The ones with threads all the way up and down them go on the bottom side or closer to where the handle would ride. So that's these 2 across here on the bottom, the one you've already put in here and this one I just set in there. And they go on the bottom like I said. So go ahead and just tighten that one up next. And then the ones that have just the threads on the bottom of them, like that, they go into the top holes. There and there. So next we'll just tighten these up. So that's all set. Those 4 are in. Ready to go. Now we'll start reassembling back to the reel. Sits in there just like that. It locks in the pinion hole. Sits right over the shaft there that rides on the spool. So just stick those back together. Line up your holes. Get it to where it needs to be on the reel. And then just start filling the holes back in for holding the whole reel back together. I like to just start on one side and just work my way around. So we'll just start right here on the front, put one in. That goes into these posts here. Put one in there. Get that one semi-snug up. And we'll flip around here to the other side of the reel. Get it lined up with the post again. Pop it right in there. That one's in. And move to the one just below it. That one's there. Right here to the, down here to the foot. And the other foot. Tighten those ones up. One last one right here on the other post. Alright. We'll just snug them up. Like that. Next is that sleeve that sits over the bridge, the shaft that's sticking out of the face of the reel there. Slide that over the top. After that, put your star back on. Now if you look at the star, one side will have numbers stamped into it, like this one does here. It's hard to see it in the video because of the reflection, but there's numbers stamped right there. You can kind of see it there. That always goes down. It doesn't matter, you know, for working purposes, but the way that it's put together at the factory, they always put it down, so that's just the way I'd like to do them. So just screw that back on. It's pretty self-explanatory. Just enough to where the flats on the post are exposed. Those flats are what hold the handle and lock it in gear, or lock it into place rather. So set those on there like that. Next, got your reel screw here with all the keyways on it. It's just like putting in a regular screw. Just sits in there, screws right into the sleeve of the bridge. Just thread it on down until you can't go no more with it, and then get it, just a little snug up with the reel wrench on here, just to tighten it up a touch. Get that hole lined up there with one of the open keyways. Like that. So now you have an open keyway there with the hole lined up with it, so that this little screw next coming can sit right into there with no problem, and that's what locks everything together. Holds your handle on your reel. So set that in place. Go ahead and screw that down. And that's that. We're all back together. Everything works. Loose drag, I can stop the spool, tighten the drag up. It gets harder and harder to stop the spool. So we are good to go.